Imagine a world where your deepest spiritual secrets could unlock unimaginable blessings or bring unforeseen challenges. What if the very truths you hold sacred were never meant to be shared, not even with those closest to you? C.S. Lewis once said, "The world rings with the praise of those who share too much, but wisdom resides in silence. Are you ready to uncover the 5 things you must never reveal if you truly are one of God's chosen?" This revelation could change everything about how you see your purpose, your struggles, and even your destiny. Think about the last time you shared something deeply personal, believing it would bring you closer to someone, only to feel exposed and misunderstood. Maybe it was a spiritual encounter, a profound dream, or a divine moment of clarity. You opened your heart, expecting understanding, only to find doubt, skepticism, or even judgment staring back at you. It's a pain many of us know too well, a reminder that not everything sacred is meant for the ears of others. It's like trying to describe the beauty of a sunset to someone who has never seen the light of day. Some truths are simply too radiant to be shared without distortion. But why is it so hard to keep these sacred truths to ourselves? Perhaps it's the innate human desire to connect, to seek validation, or to confirm our place in God's plan. We crave acknowledgement, hoping that others will see what we see, feel what we feel, and affirm what we know in our hearts. Yet in this pursuit, we risk diminishing the very holiness of our experiences. Every time we expose what is meant to be hidden, we invite the world to trample on what should be treasured. Now imagine you're walking through a dense forest. Each step forward reveals a new path, but some trails are shrouded in mist, marked with signs that say, "Do not enter these paths, hold the secrets of the chosen truths that, if spoken too freely, could lead you into danger." The Bible warns us, "Do not cast your pearls before swine." C.S. Lewis interpreted this as more than a call for discretion. It's a command to protect what is sacred, to guard your heart and your calling with unwavering diligence. The struggle is real. We live in a world that glorifies oversharing, where social media turns private thoughts into public spectacles. Every post, every comment, every shared experience becomes a piece of ourselves offered up for the world to judge. But for God's chosen, there is a different standard, a higher calling. Not all truths are meant for public consumption. Some are meant to remain between you and the Creator, locked away in the sacred space of your soul. This isn't about fear. It's about wisdom. Imagine holding a priceless gem in your hand. Would you parade it in front of strangers, risking theft or damage? Or would you secure it, knowing its value is too great to be carelessly displayed? The truths we'll explore today are like that gem, precious, powerful, and deeply personal. And if you've ever felt the sting of sharing something sacred only to have it dismissed or degraded, then you already know why this matters. But here's the real challenge: how do we discern what to share and what to guard? The answer lies not just in understanding God's will, but in recognizing the subtle ways the enemy seeks to exploit our vulnerabilities. When you speak too freely of your spiritual encounters, you risk opening doors to envy, misunderstanding, and even spiritual attack. This is not just a metaphor, it's a spiritual reality. And it's one that C.S. Lewis, through his timeless wisdom, sought to prepare us for. In the moments ahead, we'll unravel these 5 critical truths that God's chosen must never share. Each one holds the power to protect you, strengthen your faith, and align you more closely with God's purpose for your life. But before we go any further, pause for a moment and reflect. What secrets of your heart have you been too quick to reveal? What treasures have you cast before those who couldn't understand their worth? If this resonates with you, then stay with us, because this revelation is for you. Have you ever wondered why some of your deepest spiritual moments feel almost impossible to explain? It's as if the language we have isn't enough to convey the fullness of the divine. C.S. Lewis believed that the ineffable nature of God's workings is deliberate, a way to ensure that what's sacred remains protected from misunderstanding. But to fully grasp this, we need to take a step back and examine the spiritual landscape we navigate every day. The world we live in is noisy. Social media platforms overflow with opinions, judgments, and endless chatter. We've been conditioned to share every thought, every victory, and every struggle. Yet this overwhelming openness often leads to a dilution of what truly matters. For God's chosen, this poses a unique challenge. How do you protect what is holy in a world that demands constant transparency? Let's take a moment to reflect on the life and wisdom of C.S. Lewis. Known for his profound insights into the human soul, Lewis didn't shy away from discussing the spiritual battles we face. He wrote, "The very first step to humility is to realize that not all things should be laid bare." Lewis understood that certain truths are meant to be guarded not because they are shameful, but because they are sacred. Imagine for a moment that your spiritual journey is like a finely woven tapestry. Each thread represents an experience, a lesson, or a revelation given to you by God. Some threads are bright and meant to be seen, while others are hidden, strengthening the fabric from within. If you were to pull at those hidden threads, exposing them too soon, the entire tapestry could unravel. This is the essence of why discretion matters. Now consider this: when C.S. Lewis spoke of spiritual warfare, he often emphasized the subtlety of the enemy's tactics. It's not always a blatant attack. Sometimes it's as simple as encouraging you to overshare. By revealing too much, you risk inviting envy, skepticism, or even spiritual sabotage into your life. It's not about paranoia, it's about understanding that not everyone around you is equipped to handle the weight of your calling. This brings us to a pivotal question: why does God allow certain truths to remain hidden, even from those we trust? The answer lies in the transformative nature of faith. Some revelations are meant to refine you, shaping your character and strengthening your reliance on God. When shared prematurely, these revelations can lose their potency, becoming mere stories instead of powerful catalysts for change. Let's look at a story Lewis loved to recount: the tale of a man given a vision of heaven. Overwhelmed by its beauty, the man rushed to share it with everyone he met, expecting them to feel the same awe. Instead, he was met with disbelief and mockery. The vision, once a source of joy, became a source of pain. It's a reminder that some experiences are meant to remain between the soul and its creator. But how do we navigate this in practical terms? Think about the moments in your life when you felt closest to God. Maybe it was a prayer answered in an extraordinary way, or a quiet moment of peace in the midst of chaos. These are the moments that define your faith, but they are also the moments most vulnerable to distortion if shared carelessly. It's not about hiding your light, it's about protecting it from being dimmed by misunderstanding. C.S. Lewis often used the analogy of a garden to describe the soul. He said, "A garden cannot grow if its roots are constantly exposed." What he meant is that spiritual growth requires a balance of openness and privacy. Just as a garden needs protection from harsh elements, your soul needs safeguarding from the distractions and criticisms of the world. Let's not forget the promise of transformation that comes with discretion. When you choose to guard your sacred truths, you create space for God to work within you. The silence becomes a sanctuary, a place where His voice can resonate without interference. This is not an act of isolation, it's an act of trust, a declaration that you value His guidance above all else. Yet, this journey isn't without its challenges. There's a deep-seated human need to connect, to be seen and understood. It's natural to want to share your experiences, especially with those you love. But discernment is key. Before speaking, ask yourself, is this revelation meant for someone else's benefit? Or is it meant to deepen my relationship with God? This brings us to the concept of foreshadowing. Just as a story hints at future events, your life is full of moments that prepare you for what's to come. Sometimes God allows you to experience silence not as a punishment, but as preparation. He's building your strength, teaching you to rely on Him rather than the opinions of others. It's here that we must acknowledge the layered conflict within ourselves. On one hand, we long to share our spiritual journeys. On the other, we fear the consequences of being misunderstood or judged. This tension is not a flaw, it's a reflection of the sacred weight of our calling. Embrace it. Let it remind you that your journey is unique, and not all roads are meant to be walked with others by your side. There's a beautiful paradox in this struggle. By holding back, by choosing silence over disclosure, you may feel as though you're losing something. But in truth, you're gaining a deeper intimacy with God. Lewis believed that this intimacy is the foundation of a life well lived. It's where true wisdom, strength, and purpose are found. As we continue this journey, remember that every step you take is part of a larger story, a story written by the Creator Himself. The truths you guard are not burdens, they are gifts, entrusted to you for a reason. And as we uncovered the 5 things God's chosen must never share, you'll see how each one serves to protect you, guide you, and draw you closer to Him. Stay with us, because what comes next will change how you see your purpose forever. What if the silence you've been asked to keep is not a burden, but a key to unlocking your divine destiny? Hidden within every struggle, every unanswered question, and every moment of restraint lies a profound truth. God is not withholding answers, He's building something greater within you. As C.S. Lewis often observed, God whispers in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. Those whispers and shouts are not random, they are part of a grand narrative designed to transform you from within. Picture this: you are standing at the edge of a vast ocean. The waves crash against the shore, each one pulling back to reveal treasures buried in the sand, shells, stones, and fragments of something greater. Life's struggles are much like those waves. They recede, leaving behind pieces of wisdom, purpose, and clarity. But here's the secret: not all treasures are meant to be gathered immediately. Some require patience, discernment, and time to reveal their true value. Now let's delve into the heart of the mystery box, a place where questions linger and answers are delayed. Why does God allow certain truths to remain hidden? Why does He place treasures in our path and then ask us not to share them? The answer lies in the process of spiritual refinement. Lewis believed that withholding isn't about depriving us, it's about preparing us to receive the fullness of what God has planned. Think about the story of Job, a man tested not by what he had, but by what he lost. His friends, though well-meaning, failed to grasp the depth of his suffering. They tried to explain the inexplicable, offering advice when silence would have been more appropriate. Job's story reminds us that some struggles are meant to be carried alone, not because others don't care, but because their understanding is limited. It's in these solitary moments that God's voice becomes clearest. But what happens when you face the layered conflict of wanting to share yet knowing you shouldn't? This is where the enemy often strikes, planting seeds of doubt and fear. What if keeping silent makes you look weak? What if your silence is misunderstood as indifference or ignorance? These thoughts are not from God. They are distractions meant to pull you away from your purpose. The enemy knows that your greatest strength lies in obedience to God's timing, and he will do everything to disrupt it. C.S. Lewis called this the soul's paradoxical war, the battle between our desire for connection and our need for discretion. He argued that true wisdom comes not from explaining our experiences, but from living them fully. To share too soon is to risk diminishing their impact, turning divine revelations into mere anecdotes. But let's not overlook the promise of transformation embedded in this struggle. Every moment of restraint, every decision to hold back, strengthens your spiritual core. Imagine a tree with deep roots. The winds may howl, the storms may rage, but the tree stands firm because its foundation is strong. This is what God is building in you, a resilience that cannot be shaken, a faith that does not waver, and a trust that remains unbroken. Now let's open the mystery box a little further. What if the truths you've been asked to keep are not just for your benefit, but for the benefit of others in ways you cannot yet see? Perhaps your silence is a seed planted in the soil of someone else's life, waiting to grow into something beautiful. C.S. Lewis believed that our actions and inactions carry ripple effects beyond what we can imagine. By choosing discretion, you are participating in a divine plan far greater than yourself. But there's a tension here, isn't there? The world tells us that keeping secrets is a sign of weakness or fear. It glorifies transparency, urging us to share everything, to wear our hearts on our sleeves. Yet the Bible teaches us a different lesson. In Proverbs, we are told, "A prudent man conceals knowledge, but the heart of fools proclaims folly." This is not about deception, it's about wisdom, knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. This brings us to the big reveal. The 5 things God's chosen must never share are not just rules to follow, they are principles to live by. They are designed to protect you, to guide you, and to align your life with God's will. When you understand this, you'll see that the act of withholding is not a limitation, it's an invitation to trust God more deeply. So, what are these truths? While we won't list them all here just yet, think about the sacred moments in your life, the dreams, the prayers, the encounters that have shaped your faith. These are the treasures God has entrusted to you. They are not meant to be hidden out of fear, but to be guarded with reverence. And when the time comes to share them, it will be clear. God will open the doors, align the circumstances, and give you the words to speak. Until then, your silence is not empty, it is filled with purpose. Transformation happens not in the moments of action, but in the spaces of waiting. As Lewis said, the waiting is the hardest part, but it is where the soul learns its strength. You may not see it now, but every act of restraint, every decision to protect what is sacred, is shaping you into the person God created you to be. Imagine a potter working with clay. Each touch, each movement is deliberate. The clay doesn't question the process, it trusts the hands that shape it. This is the relationship between you and God. Every struggle, every unanswered question, every moment of silence is part of His design. Trust it. Embrace it. Let it refine you. And as you continue on this journey, remember this: the greatest transformations often happen in the quietest moments. The world may not see it, but God does. He sees your obedience, your trust, and your willingness to follow His lead. And in His perfect timing, He will reveal the purpose behind every struggle, every silence, and every act of faith. Stay with us, because the final part of this revelation will bring it all together in a way that will leave you inspired, empowered, and ready to embrace the fullness of God's plan for your life. When the storm quiets and the silence settles in, that's often when God's voice becomes the clearest. It's in these moments, when the world seems to demand answers and explanations, that your choice to remain steadfast in faith carries the greatest power. Every struggle, every unanswered question, and every decision to guard your sacred truths has been building something within you, a strength that the world cannot take away, and a purpose that no one else can fulfill. Think back to the moments that challenged you the most. Maybe it was the pain of being misunderstood, or the ache of waiting on God's timing when you desperately wanted to act. Those weren't just trials, they were lessons. They were shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and more attuned to God's plan. You see, every tear, every moment of doubt, every step taken in faith was never wasted. It was preparing you for this, a life rooted in purpose and built on trust. C.S. Lewis once said, "Pain insists upon being attended to." God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is His megaphone to rouse a deaf world. And yet, when you choose to embrace those moments with trust rather than resistance, something extraordinary happens. The pain doesn't just fade, it transforms. It becomes a reminder of how far you've come and how deeply God is working within you. But here's the beauty in all of this: your journey, with all its struggles and victories, isn't just for you. It's for the world. It's for the world. It's for those who will one day look at your life and find hope in the way you stood firm, even when it wasn't easy. By guarding what is sacred and walking in obedience, you're not just protecting your own faith, you're becoming a light for others, even if you can't see it yet. Imagine what could happen if every chosen soul lived with this kind of trust. A world where faith isn't shouted for attention but lived out in quiet, resolute strength. Where people don't seek validation from others but find their worth in God's unchanging love. This is what you are: part of a divine movement, built one act of faith at a time. And now, as you move forward, the call is clear to trust in God's timing, to protect the treasures He's given you, and to walk boldly, knowing that every step is guided by His hand. The story isn't over. In fact, it's only just beginning. What God has prepared for you is beyond anything you could imagine, and your obedience today is unlocking the doors to tomorrow's blessings. If this message has stirred something within you, if it's given you hope, clarity, or even a renewed sense of purpose, don't let it stop here. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Let this light spread, touching lives in ways you may never fully see, but God always will. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel. Not for me, but for the journey we're walking together. Every video is a step toward deeper understanding, stronger faith, and greater purpose. By subscribing, you're not just supporting a channel, you're joining a movement. A family of believers committed to living out the wisdom of C.S. Lewis and the timeless truths of Scripture. So take this moment, share, subscribe, and let's continue walking this path together, hand in hand, heart to heart, as we uncover all that God has in store. The best is yet to come.